spin. You know what make all this more awesome?
What?
More me. All we want to do is hear that sound. All we want to do is hear that sound.
They were some of the biggest stage productions in the country, starring some of the biggest names in the business.
Nat Bass and Waitress, just a gift. What a performer. I was blown away.
The peak of Australian musical theatre right now.
Rob Mills, so phenomenally talented.
Perfect for the role.
But in the space of just 2 weeks, Beetlejuice and Waitress the musical have both had their tours cut short. The cast left devastated.
The amount of work and effort that every single person in this cast and crew and, company have put into this show is devastating that it comes to an end so abruptly.
Now, stars like Nat Bass are sounding the alarm as the industry struggles to stay afloat amid rising costs and weakening sales.
Oh, my heart. It's hurting so much for this industry of ours across the board. It's not just musical theatre, it's theatre. It's festivals, it's shows of any kind. The arts is dying in this country, and that hurts my heart beyond anything.
I'm Ruby Jones, and you're listening to 7am. Today, arts executive John Glenn on the crisis threatening the future of theatre and live shows, and what can be done to save the industry. It's Wednesday, July 1. So, John, in the last 2 weeks, 2 big musical productions, Beetlejuice and Waitress, were both cancelled without much warning. So, to begin with, tell me a bit about what we know about why those decisions were made.
It's not just that one. It was also Back to the Future recently. And just last week, AIDA, the opera that was going to be coming to Australia exclusively, has cancelled for the 2nd year in a row. So it's definitely a trend at the moment with major productions. And I'm not sure that people understand the scale of and the costs of these productions. There's multi-millions of dollars that go into getting a show ready for its first performance in its first season. When you think about building sets, company management that then does auditions, does the casting and setting up the lighting design, sound design, and then going into rehearsals. And all of that costs millions and millions of dollars to get just to the very first performance of the very first season. Once you get performing, there's also hundreds of thousands of dollars per week in running costs for salaries and venue costs and labour costs and all those sorts of things. So the theory of a music theatre production is that once you get on stage, you want enough ticket sales to pay for the weekly running costs, but to then start chipping away at the initial costs of the production, the millions you've already spent. And I think particularly with productions like Back to the Future, Beetlejuice and Waitress. I mean, Beetlejuice is a very expensive show. The sets and costumes are very expensive. It would have a very expensive weekly running cost. And so, all of the economics of that just don't add up if you don't have enough in the box office when you start your season.
So it sounds like these productions are getting locked into a bit of a death spiral here with rising costs, low sales. How bad does it have to get for the call to be made to actually cancel a show's run? I mean, producers would have to be really looking down the barrel of significant financial losses. Yeah,
well, you can imagine if their sales are not strong up front, it's the spiral, as you say, of not having sufficient sales up front and then not seeing much of an advance book starting to appear in other cities. The other problem was the routing, so being able to secure a sensible route for a tour across the country. And a big musical survives on the success of their season in Sydney and Melbourne and certainly Brisbane as well now, before you even consider other markets like Adelaide and Perth. You need to see those advanced sales. You need to know that you can seamlessly go from one market to another. It's extraordinary how expensive it is to move a production like that from one city to another. It's not even joking when I say it's in the millions just to move. So all of a sudden, you potentially haven't paid the running costs of a production in your first season. You're not paying down the debt. You know that you're just about to add another $1 million or $2 million just to move, and the advance is not that great in other cities. That's when you start making pretty tough decisions to shut a show down, because it's much better to shut it down than to continue to increase your debt.
And it sounds like with a lot of these productions, the cast and the crew didn't have any warning that this was coming. So that's a lot of people who are pretty unexpectedly put out of work.
100%. And it's not just the cast and crew. It's a lot of theatres will have massive gaps in their schedule now because of the shutting down of these productions. These productions are booked literally years in advance in order to get the dates in the diaries of these theatres. But when a show cancels a tour at sort of fairly late notice, the chances of filling those dates in those theatres is very low. All of the people who are employed in these venues who rely on casual work, front of house, food and beverage staff, back of house technical staff in all these venues are going to start losing work. The restaurants, the sort of economic activity around these venues is very significant. When you've got 8 shows a week in those venues, all of a sudden restaurants and bars start flourishing because people are coming into those areas. So there's a massive economic impact that this has on the cast, the company, the venues, and the sort of associated allied industries as well.
And theatre executive Graham Kearns, he said that he expects theatres to be dark for 30 weeks over the next 10 months. How unusual is that? It's
extremely unusual. Graham's a fantastic operator. He and Stephen Found run the 2 of the major venues in Sydney and the Capital and Lyric. And, traditionally they're just not empty. They're literally not empty. There might be just 2 or 3 weeks a year when they're empty. For him to say that they're going to have 30 weeks dark is devastating for the business, devastating for staff, and particularly devastating for casual staff.
And in terms of ticket sales, of people not kind of being able to afford perhaps to go to the theatre right now, how long do you think that that's been, I suppose, a trend in the making? Have you sensed worry in the industry around this for a while?
Yeah, I think it goes back a long time. I'd probably say 10 or 12 years ago, we would be looking at the economics of a show, and the average ticket price was about $85, or just maybe slightly over $100 for a premium ticket. Now we're talking sort of in the $180, even up to sort of $220, $230 for a premium ticket price to go and see a musical. So if you work out a family of 4 going to see, I'm just using a family show as an example, like Matilda, all of a sudden they're spending somewhere around $700, $800 for the 4 of them to see a show. I knew people who would see every single musical that came to QPAC, and there's probably 5 or 6 per year. They're now realising that it's so expensive that they're making a choice to see 2 or even 1.
Coming up, what can be done to ensure the survival of the arts?
Live music venues are struggling to keep up with increasing costs. Several venues, including the Sewing Room,
Already closed.
have shut up shop in the past 12 months.
An iconic Sydney music venue is set to disappear.
More than 1,300 venues closing their doors around Australia, while nighttime economy businesses also face higher costs and cost of living pressures biting into people's hip pocket.
So, John, it's not just musical theatre that's struggling right now. There's festivals being cancelled, touring artists are pulling out of shows, venues are closing around the country. So when it comes to live performance in general in Australia right now, how worried are you?
I am worried. I've been, in the last 2 or 3 years, I stepped out of venues and I've been actually creating and touring shows. So we've actually got a show on the road at the moment called The Lark, starring Noni Hazelhurst. It's just Noni in the cast. She's the only person on stage. But the economics of that, it cost us it was a $250,000 investment to put 1 person on stage for a show. We could have certainly charged more to see someone of the calibre of Noni Hazelhurst on stage. But our rationale was keep your ticket prices reasonable and you'll sell well and hopefully you'll make some money. The other thing about small venues closing, I've been very connected to the contemporary music industry in Adelaide I've been on the board of Music SA, and I've seen very small venues which are incredibly important for emerging artists to sort of cut their teeth on A lot of them are closing down because the other trends that are happening at the moment, particularly in contemporary music venues, is young people are not drinking as much. And so when they go out, the venues who are used to sort of making a lot of money on the bar, they're not seeing that revenue. So the old model of just opening up a venue, charging a ticket to come in, but also making a lot of money on the bar, those sort of models are starting to fall apart as well. And that's why sort of venues are closing, particularly in the contemporary music industry.
And this is obviously a particularly critical moment for the industry. Do you think there's going to be flow-on effects once audiences leave? Do they tend to come back?
One of the things that COVID taught people is they can stay home on their big screen TVs and be entertained by streaming a show. Good example of that is you can sit home on a big screen and watch Hamilton now. So you can do that for $15, $20 a month, whereas to go and see Hamilton will probably cost you at least $150 a ticket. So a lot of people are staying home for their entertainment.
Okay, so what do you think can be done then to try and make sure that live theatre and live shows survive? And why does it matter that they do?
Yeah, I think there's a few things. So one thing that I think is very important is people have been talking about government concessions, particularly tax concessions for music theatre producers and other theatre producers. There's a good example where in the West End, the UK government gives a 40% tax rebate to producers of major theatre in the West End. And I think that is not just a government handout, it's actually a way of increasing economic activity in the West End, which then turns back into tax revenue. There are many studies about the impact of live performance on people, the fact that people get an experience that they can't have anywhere else. In the world of AI and everything that's happening across all industries at the moment, one thing that we can well and truly say is AI can't impact on a live performance experience. And the importance of a performing arts centre to advocate for social change. You know, it's not just about entertainment, it's about exploring themes that sometimes might be challenging, about diversity and inclusivity. Performing arts play an incredibly important role for community to have different voices, different coloured skin on stage, telling their stories. And it's incredibly important for those stories to be told.
John, thank you so much for speaking with me.
Thank you very much.
Also in the news, 2 employees from Big Four accounting firm Ernst & Young have been sacked after the Prime Minister Anthony Albanese's personal banking information was allegedly accessed while they were working at Commonwealth Bank. Police say 2 Sydney men aged 21 and 25 were charged after CommBank detected unauthorised access to restricted information belonging to a federal politician. Only one of them was a sacked Ernst & Young employee. Both men are charged with accessing restricted data without authorisation, and the younger man also faces a charge of distributing personal information in a way that could be seen as menacing or harassing. And the Australian Competition and Consumer Commission has launched legal action against Amazon's Prime streaming service in the federal court. The watchdog alleges that contract terms left customers facing the choice of either paying more or receiving ads that weren't included as part of the service customers initially signed up for. The ACCC is alleging that Amazon relied on 5 unfair contract terms over 2 years, with close to 1 million subscribers affected. I'm Ruby Jones, this is 7am, thanks for listening.